Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Free Agent. This is Meg Schmitz and my podcast, where the discussion is all about free agency and taking control over your future. The mission of my show is to share inspiring conversations with real people who took the leap into self-employment, business ownership, maybe franchising, and freedom. From corporate refugees and executives tired of the desk job to entrepreneurs and investors looking to share camaraderie and inspiration through their business journey, my podcast aims a spotlight on real people who stepped into the unknown, took control over their destiny, and became their own boss. These are conversations that a lot of people are not privy to, and I'm always delighted to have someone who's been an absolute inspiration for me, a mentor and a navigator. Welcome to the show today, Chad Coe.
Oh, thank you, Meg.
So we go back, 10 or 12 years or so with the mastermind group that used to be held really in person in the Chicago area. Now we've moved to Zoom. You are a multifaceted, multidimensional man, and I don't want to screw this up. So how would you describe you, Chad Coe?
You know, I would describe me as somebody that wants to achieve, wants to succeed, wants to have happiness, and perseveres to be able to get it. And I reach out to people like Meg or others that have been there, done that, and I learn from them, and I listen to them, and then I try to implement what I've learned.
And so from a career standpoint, again, multidimensional. Let's go back in time. Did you ever have a corporate job, and what was the catalyst for you to enter into the realm of self-employment?
Did I ever have a corporate job? So when I first got out of college, it turns out that I became a sales rep for Breckenridge, which was a subsidiary of Leslie Fay Corporation. And it was a massive corporation. And they brought me in, and I talked my way into getting hired. 6 months after I was hired, the president of my division passed away, and corporate looked at the entire structure of the company and decided that the sales rep in Chicago, they should just let go. And I'm like, well, that's not fair, because I went from 0 sales in the area to hundreds of thousands. And the thank you for that was, we're just going to let you go, and we're not going to even have a conversation around it. That was my first corporate job. My second corporate job was as a rep, an advisor at Payne Weber. And I was one of 30 people in my training class. And I'll never forget, I was there a week. I had all my licenses before I got hired. And the lady in HR called up because I asked a question she thought was stupid. And she asked my branch manager that maybe they should let me go, that she didn't think I was cut out for the job. 6 months later, I was one of 2 people that graduated out of a class of 30 trainees. So I always knew that I had it. I always thought that corporate was shallow and controlling. And I learned from an early time that if I wanted something, I could create it and I could build it. And I would focus on my wheelhouse and then try to grow and get better at my wheelhouse. And it's worked for me in my career. I'm in my 50s now, and I've had a pretty phenomenal run.
So corporate life, that says a lot about HR. It says a lot about how they interpret or perceive you or ignore you, run roughshod over you. And had that experience myself of being summarily dismissed without a whole lot of insight into what was going on. What was the point then at which you became self-employed and decided to take control of things?
Well, part of my life, Meg, was that I'm an entrepreneur. So at 14, 15, 16 years old, I used to wash windows, pave driveways. I used to caddy. I used to be the guy that the Boy Scouts gave away a bike if you sold enough cookies. So I'm the guy that won the bike. I learned early on to try to play and train my brain and not to have fear around no. And through a lot of practice, it works. So there's people today that aren't entrepreneurs. They've never done that. But what I've learned is you could quickly train the brain to do that.
Yeah.
Then at 18, 19 years old, I used to sell jewelry at flea markets and at sorority houses with my then girlfriend. And then I opened up a flea market and bingo hall in my 30s because as an entrepreneur, I tried things. And as I failed miserably at many of the businesses I tried, I looked at it as a stepping stone for my next opportunity. So I believe that at some point, and whatever that is when someone chooses, Meg, that they're going to have a job where it's a 3 to 5 year job, and then they're going to have to find another job in another corporation where you have HR and management that doesn't treat you the way that you would treat yourself if you were the CEO or the president. So nobody treats me better than I treat myself. And then I try to do that for my employees or my associates. But I was 24 months at Payne Weber back in 2000, 2001. And I watched how they treated the customers and how they treated the advisors. And I saw through I saw through them that it wasn't about the advisor. It wasn't about the client. It was about them. And it was about their money and their profits and what they do. And I had a 36-month training program where if I didn't last the last third year, I'd have to pay back $75,000 of training money.
Wow.
And I made a decision. I left my 25th month. And they came after me and they wanted that money back. But I couldn't stand there and watch because we're fiduciaries and it's about the client. I couldn't watch how they operate and what they did. And I knew that if I went on my own and I had faith and patience around my growth, that I could do it. Yeah. And I did. I went on my own, and 20 plus years later, I'm here living my best life.
Yes, you are. And so along the way, Chad, were there particular challenges? It seems to me that in our past, we've had a lot of conversations about speed bumps, brick walls, whether they're in the head or they're real. People who have learning disabilities, et cetera. Were there any challenges that you had to specifically deal with and overcome throughout those early years?
So first of all, that's a great question. I don't know if you made that up on the spot or you know me, but up until fourth grade, I was in special ed. So I was actually what they call an institution where I didn't learn anything until my fourth grade. So I had a lot of mentors and a lot of help and a lot of coaches. And I believe strongly that that's the reason that I give back to people today is because I had so many people of substance that would help me out of their heart that now I want to help and give back to others. But then fast forward, as an example, the flea market and bingo hall, I partnered with someone who had a business, flea market, and it was 100% sure thing business. The day before I signed the lease, the village voted I couldn't have outdoor selling. Adversity. I lost $125,000. I put $60,000 on my credit card, and I studied for 1 year for my Series 7 to get in the financial service business. And I got a 68 because of adversity. The alarms went on downstairs, the police, the car alarm went off when I was taking the test. The lady pulled the test for me, the proctor, because I started putting my notes on the page before I was supposed to. I mean, adversity is part of our life.
Yeah.
So what I've learned to do, Meg, is I take every test twice. I have 6 licenses. I've taken 12 to 18 tests to get them. I don't mind doing that because I know how I'm wired. Another really great tool I've learned is there's a gentleman out there named Dan Sullivan, the entrepreneur or the strategic coach out of Canada. His books, his CDs, his materials online, he'll tell you how to build an entrepreneurial business. He'll share with you what to focus on and what to do. And I never questioned it. I just did it.
Yeah.
And it's been great for me. But adversity, I've been broke more times than you could ever imagine. And broke is just a time in your life. It doesn't mean it's permanent.
Yeah.
And today, I can honestly tell you that my financial life is at my age is that I'm pretty much set for life by understanding how money works and understanding how financial planning works and understanding that when the world looks like it's against you, it's only for a period of time.
And that is such a great thing to remember right now. We're in a pandemic. This is a short period of time. We need to all have the fortitude to last this thing out. But you have to keep your financial house in order. I think it's interesting growing up on the North Shore of Chicago. That's where I grew up. There's a lot of affluence. There was a lot of maybe entitlement. You're learning, which I didn't know about that. That's very insightful to understand the depth of your perseverance in order to attain success, taking those tests twice. And who knows what other things you had to go through when you were in school. Kids are mean to each other, especially to someone who looks weaker or isn't as smart as maybe they or capable, athletic as they are. So that's very insightful to know about your ability to persevere in creating co-financial.
Yeah.
What do you have other businesses that you're running besides that?
Well, let me share with you another kind of story, right? So I wanted to get involved in charity because nobody wants to talk about their money, and it was something that I could do. So I found a local charity and I got involved. I went to one meeting. They were going to do a golf outing. They never told me when the second meeting was. They never told me when the golf outing was. Like all of a sudden, it's 8 people on a committee to do the golf outing, and I was never included. So one day I see the president in, believe it or not, the bathroom, and I looked at him and I said, "How hard is it to do one of these things?" He says, "It's not that bad." And I went out and I created Special Kids Network.
Oh.
And 20 years later, we've raised over $4 million doing golf outings, poker events, and other pop-up charity events. And I created it and I put my networking group on the board because I wanted my charity to be inclusive of everybody, not just the people that are in my little circle or people of power. I wanted everyone to be included. So I had a very large board. I had everyone involved who wanted to be involved. And I ran it as a friendship organization that would help other nonprofits raise money. So, I created that. We still have Special Kids Network. I created Mastermind Connections, which is a networking group and mastermind group that used to have up to 300 people a month that would come and network. We'd have 4 meetings a month. And there's other things that we do. I benefit promotions because I'm a charity auctioneer because I've been involved in charity.
Yeah.
So not only do we do charities and auctions, my wife and I, but now we offer promotional goods to those charities. So I popped up a benefit promotions company. I do trip business because at the charities today, people want to go to trips. Why not be the broker between the travel, the destination, and the charities that want to go and make sure they're getting a first-class experience. So I became a broker of trips to specifically the Vedanta in Nuevo Vallarta and other places. So I'm going to share with you this, that you're coming across people that are afraid to open up their first business because they're afraid of failure. I would turn that around like a smiley face or a frown face and think about the possibilities of success. And know that if there's one person that's successful in the business that you are now going to be handed with a business plan and offered that all you have to do is make phone calls, prospect, reach out, find a place to even have your business, that success is as close to guaranteed as you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Let me give you another quick example, Meg. We're dealing with COVID and everyone is sitting at home and not working, or they're working from home. Somehow, some way, a company reached out and said, why don't I give me leads, a lead service, that's their company, for people that have asked for financial planning help. I now got into the habit of setting up 30 follow-up calls every Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and asking these people if they would like to know about Co-Financial Group and what we do and how we could help them. Other than when I first got in business, used to cold call the operator or cold walk the Sears Tower and get escorted out. Other than 22 years ago, I haven't made an outgoing lead call, period. But because I could double my business by doing this, I've learned how to step in, engage, kind of like lean into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I'm finding is that there's people out there when you make enough phone calls who want what you have, they want to hire you, they want to pay you, they want to be your partner, they want to be your friend, they want to be in your life. But I would have never known that if I didn't take the time to explore that. When you're dealing with a franchise or the business that you're showing people, you're giving them, from my understanding, the operating system to get customers. And if you'll lean in, the possibilities are endless on the other side.
Yeah.
But you have to look at it, embrace it, and look at the positives, not look at the negatives. And I could tell you, Meg, from when I do Special Kids Network, I might have been stupid 20 years ago to create my own charity. Because if you look at all the charities that are out there and all the events and everything that's going on, who would have ever imagined that I could, as an individual, create something that would raise the kind of money that we raised? But I had belief, I had faith, I had patience, I created business plans and marketing plans around it, and then I implemented them and watched how people show up in your life somehow, some way, and pay you for what you have, or reward you for what you have.
And you've done a great job with the mastermind group that I've been a part of calling BS on people who are not being honest and realistic with themselves, which you've had to be from the beginning. Your perseverance and your terrierness, you will not be dominated. You will overcome. And so that has been resonating with the group for a long time. Your style has shifted in the last few years, and that might be because of Jill. But the rewards of that type of mentoring, and for people who don't have that kind of mentoring, I would challenge you to go and seek it out. Don't align with just anybody, but really find people who, like Chad, push you to get out of your head and onto your feet and run. Don't walk. Be aggressive, be assertive, be clear. You do a lot of sessions with people to help them get clarity, help them really organize their efforts in order to do better. Are there particular fundamental elements that are meaningful to you in teaching people to help them take those first steps confidently?
So I'm going to just put this up here if you could see them. I have The Auctioneer's Apprentice, which is my new book, A Parable for Living an Abundant Life. I have The Confident Leader, Leading Your Way to an Abundant Life. And The Power of Peopletizing, which is networking your way to an abundant life. The reason I wrote these books is because over the years of being with people in the mastermind group who are thought leaders, and understanding that we all have secrets that if we share them and do them consistently, then success is almost guaranteed. So your initial question was, are there things that I do that work that I could share maybe with entrepreneurs or other people? So it's kind of funny. In The Power of Peopletizing, and the reason I showed you this is because of the question, you said, is there simple things that I do? Well, there's a chapter in here on goals. And I was going to go in one day and modify the chapter and expand it, because I teach how to have goals and how to modify them and make them work. And when you read it, it says, make sure you have goals. And I left it alone because I don't know that it gets any simpler than have goals or write down your goals, because those people that write down their goals, as a Harvard study showed, those 3% of students at Harvard who had written goals outperformed the other 97% of students who didn't by 10%.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in having goals. I'm a big believer in having weekly meetings and mentorship and someone that you could check in with. I'm now part of something called The Game, believe it or not. I pay a coach. I'm part of a 90-day game where I check in with someone daily and let them know that I made my phone calls, I ate healthy, and I did the 2 or 3 other things that I need to do to make sure that my tasks are accomplished. Because what we know by my indicators is that referrals, which is introductions, proposals of new business equal closes. So I actually have indicators that I track and follow on a daily basis because I know that if I'm tracking them and I have numbers filled in those, that the outcome will be new business and new opportunities.
Yeah.
It starts with my phone calls and then it leads down to the other factors. So I think for like, as an example, in the world you're dealing with where people are afraid to take their foot off the brake, is what are the secrets that they could come up with to be a confident leader and know that no matter what they do in the economy, the world, or the market, that they'll succeed.
Yeah.
And the book talks about that. The Auctioneer's Apprentice is also now an Audible. And by the way that happened is I'm on LinkedIn talking to a gentleman named Frank, and he says, "Why is your book not an Audible?" I go, "Well, it didn't occur to me." He goes, "Would you like me to read it for you? I'll do it for free." And I'm like, wow, if you're willing to do that, it doesn't sound as hard anymore. I'm going to try to do it myself. And so I brought in my friend, John St. Augustine, who came in with his mic and set up. And for 15 or 18 hours, I sat behind the mic and read into the mic. And today I now have an Audible. I mean, it's one of the greatest things in my mind that I ever accomplished. I used to not read, and now I'm writing books and talking about them and getting from a lot of people who listen to it reviews that in my mind are mind-boggling. People love them. So yeah. I'm thrilled that I did them.
You've got a lot of positivity. It just exudes out of you. And so it just makes me wonder in the moment, is there anything that drags you down, or how do you have days where you have to psych yourself up and to get back out there?
No, it's not about psyching up and get yourself out there. There's days like, again, Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, go back to 20, 30 years ago when I listened to him. Not every day needs to be an up day. When you go to the gym and you're bench pressing 250 pounds, there's days that you can only bench press 100, and that's at 100% capacity, and that's okay. I give myself permission to do nothing. I give myself permission to work when I want to work. Mm-hmm. I've been coming in the office because I'm here alone pretty much, except my wife Jill, 5 days a week, 4 hours a day, 2 hours a day. I can come and go when I want. As a matter of fact, I have a stand-up desk, which is supposed to be good for you.
Yeah.
So 3 years later, I get here at about 9 or 10 in the morning. At about 2 or 3, my lower back starts to hurt a little bit. That's my time clock that it's time to go. The point is this. Some days I could give it 150% and I'm all in. Some days I give it 75%. It doesn't matter. I always show up. I always give it my best. And I give myself permission that not every single day needs to be the same.
Yeah. And that's really the benefit of being the master of your own destiny and being able to imprint on other people's lives. You do need to practice self-care and know when you're not on the top of your game, but you can still be real and engage with other people and have foibles and quirks and those off days. But that really is I think one of the biggest benefits personally of being self-employed. I cut out yesterday at about 3:15. I had enough.
Yep.
And then I picked it back up again around 5:15. I got a phone call coming in that I really needed to take, and it brought me back up again. Yeah. So it's not taking all day off, and sometimes it's just a little mental paradigm shift. But that's the real benefit of being self-employed, is having that freedom to say, all right, what kind of a day do I want to have? What kind of a week what kind of a year do I want to have? Here, we've got this right here. I'm moving my camera a little bit, but you have to have your goals right in front of you. And then, on those days where you just got to peel back and get off the accelerator a little bit, take care of what needs to be done, you come back fresher and stronger and better.
So the other thing, Meg, with that, which you do, I think, is I use the Calm app and meditate and relax through it. They really have great examples. I listened the other night about how to sleep, the power of sleep. And I learned 4 or 5 things from this one gentleman on the Calm app about sleep that I never knew.
Oh,
I have another gentleman, Dave McGraw, who is on SoundCloud and YouTube. I also subscribe to him for $7 a month. He has about 100 different binary psychotherapy meditations on sleeping, motivation, and energy. And part of why I do this is years ago, I used to not be able to quiet my mind. And I started doing Reiki and I started to meditate. And I learned how to relax. And I can tell you today, my mind is extremely quiet. It's not running. I don't have somewhere else to be. It's really been a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So a few things that I would recommend is the Calm app, David McGraw. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk to anyone who listens to this. I'm happy to actually, if you're a right fit, you could join the mastermind group with me and Meg. The bottom line is everybody has stuff. There is nothing easy. And by the way, there are days where I'm sure that I'm down or that I'm not me. I just find that to be very far and few and in between, because somehow, some way, I just don't go there.
Yeah.
And my pet peeves are minimal. My way of being is about being upbeat, motivating, and encouraging.
And honest.
By the way, I have great people in my life. And if you're not a great people, you're not in my life. So I'm not afraid anymore to live with very simple, very good people who protrude positive, good energy. And really, I've learned how to remove, with the help of my wife, Jill, the people that are toxic and angry and want to put their stuff on you.
Yeah.
I think it's called jealousy, but I don't know. I just know that I'm around people that play at a high frequency, and I enjoy that.
Well, and look at the level of the group too. I got to give you credit. Over the last few years, there was a period of time where I was not part of the group. I had met Pete, my now husband, and life shifted for a couple of years. I wasn't spending as much time around Northbrook, and the only meeting I ever missed, in my heart, in my head, the meeting that I missed was yours. There were a number of years ago when we were getting together, and you were in a different place in your own head and in your own life, but you were calling BS on a bunch of us as self-employed business people, having ridiculous goals or having, we were unclear. And so you really worked with the group in order to do a visioning exercise that I wasn't worried about my business at that point. I knew what I was missing in my life was my life partner. I wanted to be married successfully for the rest of my life. And you ran us through a visioning exercise where I know other people were putting their business plans together. I was putting my life plan together. And the testimony to that and the power of Chad is that when you go through a visioning exercise and talk to the universe crisply, clearly, concisely, and I don't mean I want a man named Pete who's 6'4" and whatever, but you put your goals out there, the universe is going to deliver. Yeah. But you have to be clear. Right? You work a lot on that communication, not only in your head and spiritually, but also to the people that you're hoping to do business with or participate in life with.
Right. But Meg, as you say that, how many people do we know that don't have a plan to make $100,000 a year or $200,000? And what they want to sell or what they want to help people with, there's no market for it.
Yeah.
So sometimes you could help people and do it because you can, but it's just as easy to make 100, 200, 300, 500, or $1 million a year by having a plan and selling something that people want and asking enough people to buy. It's my goal to call out people who they're looking to find themselves in a second, third, or fourth career, and they've never had anyone in their life that said, this honestly doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And why are you beating your head against the wall to do something? It doesn't have to be this hard.
Yeah.
And after the years of me being in this business, being in the mastermind group, and people falling in love with the camaraderie of the group and what we do, I've been around long enough to see it. I've had over 10,000 one-on-one meetings. I used to meet with 2, 3, or 4 people a day about them. Mm-hmm. And pretty much what you find out is we're all very similar. And there's some people that play without fear. And there's some people that are afraid to get out of their own way.
Yeah.
And I think one quick example, which is fun. How many of you know Jimmy John's?
Sure.
So back in college, I was fortunate to meet Jimmy John's dad, Jim Liato. And Jim Leoto, they named the UIC Business School after. And he was he was a doctorate in neurolinguistic and in dealing with people. And here's his book right here, actually, Emotional Intelligence. So meeting with Jim, we're talking one day, and he says, I can't play with average people because average people don't do what I say or what I think they should do to be able to get where they want to go. He goes, I need to deal with overachievers and people that play at a much higher level and a much higher frequency because they get things done. And I don't feel like I'm wasting my time talking to them.
Yeah.
And to me, that was kind of like an interesting message that here's a gentleman who's ultra successful, not in family, but in business anyway.
Yeah.
And you would talk about that there's a difference between the kind of people you deal with. And I believe that you, Meg, knowing you all these years, is playing at a pretty high frequency. As a matter of fact, you've had an incredibly successful Great Clips business that at some point, I think it wasn't your undoing, I think it was something else. You've been an entrepreneur yourself and seen the ups and downs. But I also know you share with me that you're doing better today, possibly than you've ever done. And I think much of that has to do with a shifting of the frequency, being around the right people, and knowing who to ask for opportunities, and then also bringing other people along for the ride to enjoy the experience.
Yeah. Best thing about being sure of yourself, which I am, and you're sure of yourself, we have the self-confidence to not charge everybody for everything. We can give freely, just like you're giving back the ways that you've integrated. By the way, if you ever get a chance to go to a Chadco auction experience, it is absolutely the most fun auction experience ever. And I've been doing a lot of charity work over the years. You are an awesome auctioneer. And it's just super fun to watch how you work an audience, work a room. You have such great people skills and ability to read people's body language and see when they're excited or see when they need a helping hand. You're really just quite the philanthropist and mentor. And I thank you for being on the show today. Do you want to add information for people to just quickly, phone number or website if they wanted to get in touch with you?
I think the easiest thing to do is to find me on LinkedIn. I'm an avid user. I think it's an incredible tool. So it's just Chad Coe at LinkedIn. You'll see me. I got a blue bow tie on. You can see cofinancial.com or cofinancial.com is the company that I own. If you go to LinkedIn, you'll be able to see the other things I'm doing. The bottom line is my phone number is 847-282-3170. That's 282-3170. And I'm here for you. I'm supportive. I'm going to find a place to be able to help you. If it means I just send you out some of the books that I've written, I'm happy to do that. But the bottom line is thanks for taking the time to listen today. It's been as fun delivering and hanging out with you, Meg. And hopefully for those of you listening and sitting here taking notes or being inspired by what we're talking about, the cool thing is that Meg and I are here for you. So thank you.
Perfect. That was perfect ending. And I just want to thank you one last time for being on the Free Agent with me today.
Thank you, Meg.